Could this current WWE superstar appear at AEW All In? And someone from the Elite is willing to apologize to CM Punk. But first, this past Wednesday on AEW Dynamite, longtime rivals Jon Moxley and Kenny Omega would meet inside a steel cage, resulting in a betrayal from Don Callis, allowing the Blackpool Combat Club member to score the win. Prior to the show, Omega would speak with Sports Illustrated, where he would discuss his career and hinted that it could be coming to an end sooner than we think. In reference to the cage match, Kenny would say, "Time is running thin on the Kenny Omega clock. I can guarantee anyone that sees me perform live that there is a reason for that performance, and I work to make everyone special. I wanted this one to be unique and very fun for people who tune in and people who are there live, and I know how competitive John is." How long the Kenny Omega clock has left exactly is currently unknown, although the former AEW World Champion was recently out of action for several months in order to heal from a bunch of nagging injuries from over the years, although hopefully he has a few more bouts left in the tank. Kenny Omega's former tag team partner Kota Ibushi has been a topic of conversation this year. This after his new Japan Pro-Wrestling contract came to an end at the start of 2023, placing him near the top of the free agents market. Whilst his next move isn't entirely clear at this point, there has been reported interest from WWE and AEW in acquiring his signature. With that said, one half of the undisputed WWE Tag Team Champions, Sami Zayn, would take to Twitter last night to reveal that he hopes to wrestle a match with the Golden Star at some point in the future, and he would note, "This man, Kota Ibushi, is a lunatic and a gift to pro wrestling, and I need to wrestle him once more before my career is done." It remains to be seen when this match could or will take place, with Sami currently signed to WWE, so he'll either have to hope for Ibushi to sign with WWE or perhaps take his own career elsewhere in order to secure the matchup. Next Wednesday, All Elite Wrestling and Warner Bros. Discovery are expected to announce a brand new Saturday night show, AEW Collision. The announcement is expected to take place during the Warner Upfronts during the day, an event designed to show advertisers what the network has in store going forward, with a follow-up to the news coming to AEW Dynamite later in the night. During this past Wednesday's episode of Dynamite, where the announcement was teased, two returning faces showed up before entering Tony Khan's office for a conversation, those being former TNT champion Miro and former Women's World Champion Thunder Rosa. Both talents have been absent from television for varying reasons for a number of months, although the timing of their returns led to talk that they are being brought back in order to work Saturday nights. Well, according to a new report from Fightful Select as part of their Select Portions feature, this is exactly why they've been called back to duty, and they would note, "The returns of Miro, Thunder Rosa, and others incoming are directly tied to the debut of AEW Collision." Tonight on Friday Night SmackDown, the blue side of the WWE World Heavyweight Championship tournament plays out, with 6 of the brand's biggest names battling out for a spot in the title match against Seth Rollins at the Night of Champions event in Saudi Arabia on May 27th. One of the names taking part in the bracket is former World Heavyweight Champion Edge, who was forced to relinquish the belt of the same name back in 2011 due to injury, this after he had to retire, with him now having his eye on winning back what he never lost. Taking to Twitter last night, the Rated R superstar would tease that if he wants to leave Night of Champions with the belt, he's willing to put his career on the line in every title defense that he makes, and he would say,
"Some people have been running around saying they're going to finish their stories, right? And good for them. But it made me think a little bit about my story. The introduction of the WWE Heavyweight Championship, if I look at that thing, it even looks like the title that I never lost. Looks like big gold. 12 years ago, I was forced to give that thing up. Never had a chance to get it back. Now I have a chance. And it all comes full circle. Now this ride, it's going to end sooner than later. Let's face it, we all know that. I got to get this done. It's the last thing to do. It's the period on the end of the sentence, right? It's the last sentence in the book. I got to get that stuff out of the basement. You know, all of you that are watching this, I assume you've been with me on this ride. And I really appreciate it. It's going to end soon. And I got to end it right this time. And there's no better way to finish it than to win the World Heavyweight Championship. And then when I lose it, that's it. I'm done.
Now let's get to some WWE contract news, as Drew McIntyre reportedly has a deal that's set to expire within the next 9 months, with him said to be undecided on if he wants to stay or go. One fan theory that has made the rounds is that the Scottish Warrior could show up at the AEW All In event at Wembley Stadium, although according to today's Wrestling Observer newsletter, this is far from a possibility. Dave Meltzer would note that the contract won't be up before the big Wembley show, adding that there may even be time added onto the contract due to a previous injury, and Dave would write, regarding McIntyre and the idea he could be at All In, there is basically almost no chance of that. His contract expires months after that date, so even if he were to leave WWE when the deal expires, a big if, and goes to AEW, which would be the most likely destination if he were to leave, that can't happen until 2024. Also, WWE is likely to tack on all of this current period when he's been out of action with an injury that would move the end of his deal back. Next, we have some more news on the introduction of AEW Collision, as well as the long-awaited return of CM Punk, who is expected to be a key part of the show. Before we get there though, let's go to the latest developments on the CM Punk Elite saga, a situation that came to a boiling point at AEW All Out in September 2022, leading to a real-life backstage fight. According to a fresh report from today's Wrestling Observer newsletter, there are still looming legal issues preventing contact between the two sides, although things are said to be at a more reasonable state, and Dave Meltzer would write, regarding the questions everyone asks about the internal stuff and people making up and working together, nothing has changed. There are a number of different legal issues still ongoing and in play, and nobody is allowed to publicly talk or contact the other side or talk about any of the issues. From someone near the top, they are no closer to a resolution than they have been, but things are more reasonable. Meltzer would then reveal that one person within the Elite camp is willing to apologize to CM Punk over what went down last year, with the name of the individual currently being unknown, and Dave would add, at least one person is willing to apologize and has wanted to for a while, but is not allowed to make any contact. This isn't Punk, as we don't know one way or the other what he's willing to do. Another person on that side also said that they believe that apologies are in order, but more than one, that Punk should be the first, but not the only one. Whilst Meltzer noted that he is unsure if CM Punk is willing to issue an apology from his side, it's worth remembering that Fightful Select recently reported that he was willing to say sorry for his actions during the media scrum, having expressed regret on that part. The question now remains as to who within the Elite side is willing to apologize for their part in the lead up to the events of last September, although it's worth noting that it was reported by Fightful recently that Kenny Omega and CM Punk were seen talking after the backstage brawl, making him the lead candidate on social media. These things combined have led to some hope from within the fan base that any differences between Omega and Punk at a minimum could be put to the side, leading to light at the tunnel for those hoping for a singles feud down the line. And to close, we have a further report from the Wrestling Observer newsletter regarding the debut of AEW Collision, which is said to be taking place inside the United Center in Chicago, Illinois, the home of the AEW debut of CM Punk at the first dance special edition of Rampage. The first episode of Collision will reportedly have its own unique name in what appears to be a sequel to the first dance, and the Observer notes, a number of announcements will take place on 5/17 regarding the future of AEW. Warner Bros. Discovery will have its upfronts for advertisers that day at the Hulu Theater adjacent to Madison Square Garden, which is expected to include the announcement of the new Collision show on Saturday night. With that show will come a new deal with WBD, the announcement of the 6/17 debut date, believed to be at the United Center in Chicago, and the return of CM Punk on a show called The Second Coming. The Second Coming feels like a very fitting name for the re-emergence of the Second City Saint, and once the announcement of the show is made official, it will all but confirm reports of a CM Punk return.